Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So we got guys an update on Major Hurricane Melissa, which has rapidly intensified into a high-end Category 4 hurricane, and is expected to continue to intensify into a Category 5 hurricane before making a catastrophic landfall on Jamaica and Cuba. I've got all the details coming right up, right? So if they are joining me here on this Sunday evening, we have a lot to talk about in this video. So we're going to be going over all of the latest details and really some of the final details and information on, again, now Major Hurricane Melissa, and I have not used the words Major Hurricane Melissa, as a current kind of standpoint yet, because we officially did see that first extreme phase of rapid intensification. Some people are even considering it to be ultra rapid intensification. What happened last night is that in less than 20 hours, the storm went from being a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane, again, going through what was double the threshold for rapid intensification. So unbelievable stuff is going on right now. Again, you can see that really all we got going on in the Caribbean right now. This is our current look right at this moment. We really don't have much other than, again, our Major Hurricane Melissa. So there are, again, a couple of showers and thunderstorms out here in Central America. There was a cold front a couple hours ago, or really yesterday, that kind of brought a little bit of dry air intrusion into the center of Melissa, which did kind of delay some of that intensification, but we officially got that huge, just booming intensification. And other than that, again, there really isn't a whole lot going on. Again, Melissa kind of takes up the entire part of your screen here, again, showing us what we're looking at in the Caribbean as we get into this afternoon and this evening. If we look at what we have on the latest National Hurricane Center forecast page, you can see, again, the only named storm we have and the only disturbance we have in the Atlantic is Hurricane Melissa. The latest 2 p.m. update here had Melissa at 140 miles per hour. This is a Category 4 hurricane with minimum central pressure at 946 millibars. Movement is west at 5 miles per hour, so this storm is still incredibly slow moving, and it hasn't really strengthened a whole lot in the past, 5 hours or so. It's kind of stayed at the same intensity, so it's definitely taken a break from the extreme rapid intensification, but there is a real chance we could see another phase of intensification happen, and I'll tell you guys why more in depth in a minute. But I think if that second phase does happen, I do think this will make landfall as a Category 5 hurricane, which is not expected as of right now. But I think that if we do see that second phase of rapid intensification, we could be talking about a potentially even more dangerous system. So again, this is an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane. Barely moving here, but the latest from the National Hurricane Center is that Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft investigating Major Hurricane Melissa, life-threatening catastrophic flash flooding and landslides expected in portions of Jamaica and southern Hispaniola through midweek. Alright, so like I've been saying over the past couple of days, that is not wording that you see every day from the National Hurricane Center. Again, we as forecasters and obviously the officials, we always make sure that we do not use those words lightly. Again, you will not hear people say catastrophic all the time. So again, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of how dangerous this storm is. But it is officially on approach to Jamaica. Again, it's expected to curve north in the next couple of days, and we'll get into that here in a second. But I do want to quickly go to the forecast cone. Sorry about this little delay here. I guess I forgot to set this up. But if we look at the latest National Hurricane Center forecast cone, again, you can see any minute now, really, as we get into tonight and eventually into tomorrow, we are expecting the storm to curve eventually a little bit more west-northwest and eventually off to the north and northeast. It is expected to make a direct hurricane landfall here Tuesday morning in southern Jamaica. All of Jamaica is still under hurricane warnings. Again, final preparations should have been done days ago. Again, the storm is already starting to lash Jamaica with those outer bands. We still do have hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings up for southern Haiti, so still some gnarly conditions out there. We do still have hurricane watches up for portions of eastern Cuba. Those will likely get upgraded to hurricane warnings really any minute now. I really would not be surprised if by tonight we have hurricane warnings up for, again, parts of eastern Cuba, but some very significant impacts are expected there, again, as the storm is expected to make landfall just after dinner time on Tuesday. And then the storm will continue to be relatively slow moving. Again, only by 8 a.m. Wednesday is this storm expected to slowly move its way out. Then it is expected to impact the Bahamas before going way out to sea. But the latest forecast point actually does have Bermuda right on the cone of uncertainty, again, as a likely Category 1 to Category 2 hurricane. So we could be talking about a third direct landfall, again, as we get into late this week. So a lot is again going to be discussed over the next couple of days, past whenever this makes that impact towards Jamaica. But this storm is impacting a lot of land, and of course it has to be a very strong storm. But to get you guys kind of a more detailed version of the cone here, this is exactly how strong the forecast points are. Again, you could go back to the National Hurricane Center forecast cone. They only have the points listed as hurricane or major hurricane. This is how strong exactly it's supposed to be. So the next forecast point from the National Hurricane Center is going to be by 8 a.m. tomorrow. So we are expecting, or at least the National Hurricane Center is expecting us to wake up to a Category 5 Hurricane Melissa, again with maximum sustained winds of 160 miles per hour and wind gusts of up to 200 miles per hour as we get into tomorrow morning. It is then expected to abruptly curve north and go right into the south shore of Jamaica, again making landfall as a extremely high-end Category 4 hurricane, still a catastrophic storm, bringing wind gusts of winds of 155 miles per hour and wind gusts of 190 miles per hour. So that would make it literally only 5 miles per hour shy of a Category 5 hurricane, so this will be at least a borderline Category 5 as it makes landfall somewhere to the south of Mandeville, Jamaica. Again, a very, very dangerous borderline Category 5 hurricane. It then is expected to weaken down to a Category 3 hurricane, still a major hurricane, and then obviously it will make landfall in eastern Cuba, bring wind gusts of 155 miles per hour and sustained winds of 130 miles per hour. And then as a Category 2 hurricane, it will continue to move north, making a pretty significant impact towards the Bahamas, and then going north and impacting potentially Bermuda down the line. So that is the big picture here from the National Hurricane Center forecast going here for Melissa. Again, very, very dangerous looking storm. But going now into the zoomed in kind of satellite look at Melissa, we're going to taking a deep dive in what she's looking like this morning. You can see this looks a lot different than what it looked like in my last update. Again, my last update, this looked like a kind of messy little blob. Not anymore. This thing has a full, dried out eye, meaning that this has a very, very dangerous, again, outer eye wall. You can see this is a perfectly symmetrical hurricane. This is very beautiful satellite imagery, and again, it's something that you only see with the strongest of hurricanes that you'll see during the year. This is a nasty outer core as well as a nasty inner eye wall. This is going to be packing, again, catastrophic winds of up to 190 miles per hour, and if we do see that strengthening phase once again occur, we could see those winds bump up to near 200 miles per hour. Again, really all depending on the strengthening of the storm, but you're already starting to get some of those gnarly outer bands to lash portions of eastern Jamaica. You could see just how close Jamaica is to the center of circulation, but it will continue to stay just south of Jamaica for the next 12 hours or so before officially making that turn north and going right into Jamaica. But you can see, again, very healthy convection still occurring on those outer bands. This is a very, very healthy this is a very, very healthy hurricane. I was going to say tropical cyclone, but I mean, that's not really appropriate wording for a storm this strong. Again, not a whole lot else to really talk about. There could definitely still be a tiny bit of wind here on the western side of the storm, and it has been actually dealing with a little bit of drier intrusion, but the reason why that's not slowing down the storm at all is because it's so strong that it's able to fight all of that off. If it were stronger, it would cause a bigger impact, but because it's so, small and just so weak, basically that is just not going to affect the storm at all, and it's strong enough to the point where it can really battle all of that off, and it's not really going to affect the storm too much, again, with that strengthening process occurring. Alright, so moving on here, we're going to look at the HWRF hurricane model. We're going to be looking at both the HWRF and the HAFSA model for what the future of Hurricane Melissa looks like. And the latest here from the HWRF, again, initializing this right around where the storm is at right now at 943 millibars. And this is, again, likely a very, very high-end Category 4 hurricane as we get into tonight, and then tomorrow morning it does start to dip that low pressure number, and at this point we're getting into the 934 millibar range here, so this likely means that we have a Category 5 hurricane, again, just south of Jamaica. This is a very ferocious, again, catastrophic storm, and it officially does make that curve north as we're getting into Monday morning, and you can see it is still a likely Category 5 hurricane as it's making that turn north, so we don't see that strengthening just yet, and it's still sub 940 millibars, before it finally starts to, get closer and near Jamaica, still as a borderline Category 5 hurricane. Now, I will notice that the storm is looking a little bit more westward here, rather than what latest or later model runs have been showing. So last night's runs came in showing a dead center impact. This night's this afternoon's run does show the storm going a little bit farther to the west. Now, that does not mean at all that the storm is going to miss Jamaica, and that does not mean at all either that we're going to see less impacts. This just means that the exact location of, the worst of the impacts and just where that landfall is going to be in general is going to be a little bit farther to the west. But you can see that it really wants the storm to stay much further southwest for quite a while. Again, it curves north, but it really slows down. I mean, that is a stall-out process right there. I mean, it literally does not move for a solid 12 hours, and that could also allow for more intensification. Again, this is just sitting at 940 millibars. You're literally dealing with the closest to a Category 5 that you can get. Again, this is a borderline Cat 5, and you're still getting just absolutely insane outer bands. Again, these are outer bands that are producing tropical storm force winds, but also you're getting just incredible amounts of rainfall coming down with these non-stop. So you are just getting absolutely poured on if you're in Jamaica, and you still have the center of circulation offshore here, but it slows down literally offshore. And what's interesting is that it literally almost directly misses Jamaica. Now, you do get a landfall there. That's your landfall point on the very west coast of Jamaica. Completely different than what the National Hurricane Center is saying. But you still get hit with, again, those wind gusts of over 190 miles per hour. And at this point, the HWRF wants the storm to get, once again, back down to sub 940 millibars, which would likely bring this up to a Category 5 hurricane once again at landfall, okay? So it wants landfall to occur really early Tuesday morning before turning north, once again impacting Cuba as a Category 4 hurricane, which is actually a lot stronger than what the National Hurricane Center is saying. The National Hurricane Center wants this to make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane, which is actually in line with past model runs and even in line with what the HWRF said yesterday, but now it shows a much more stronger solution, also a little bit farther to the west, still has a 941 millibar low. I mean, that is still a very high-end Category 4 hurricane, okay? So that is a very large difference there, and then you just get tons of rain. I mean, look how much rain the HWRF wants, again, on all of central and eastern Cuba. I mean, that is a very, very dangerous and potentially catastrophic situation there. Again, if you do see a solution like this where you just get tons of rain, I mean, you can see literally all of eastern Cuba is filled up on the map here by rain, and then this continues to move north, still as a very solid, likely Cat 2, Cat 3 hurricane, making a third landfall on the Bahamas, bringing, once again, very significant and life-threatening impacts, and then it continues to move north and actually re-strengthens and gets that number a lot lower before moving into the North Atlantic and really starting to deteriorate there. So the HWRF wants 3 landfalls still, very close call with Jamaica. I don't want to, I'm not buying this run, so I don't want to say this is not going to come as close, because again, it's too late for that. I mean, it's going to make that turn earlier, and this is not a model trend because there haven't been any other models that have been shown it. So this is clearly an outlier. Again, we are still expecting that direct impact on Jamaica. However, the HWRF wants a much farther west track here. Still bring catastrophic impacts to both Cuba and Jamaica, but because of that farther west track, it does not want the storm at all to make a fourth landfall on Bermuda. So we'll have to just see again what happens over the next couple of days. If not, the storm will get closer to Bermuda. All right. So now we look at the HAFSA hurricane model, which in my opinion has the best model output here and best kind of forecast for what the storm is going to do over the next couple of days. So as you can see, again, it wants the storm to continue moving generally west, northwest over the next couple of hours, and it does want that second phase of rapid intensification to begin as we get into late tonight. So around the same time our first phase of intensification occurred last night. But you can see it wants the storm to deepen into the lower 930s which would definitely bring this down, or bring this up, I should say, to a Category 5 hurricane. And we're waking up tomorrow to a monstrous 929 millibar Category 5 hurricane, again with sustained winds of likely a little over 160 miles per hour. And it does not stop there. This gets sub 920 millibars, which again is starting to push the strongest storm of the year. Again, I believe Erin and it was Erin and Humberto, something like that, where those were the two Category 5 hurricanes that we got. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't think any of them got this strong. Again, this would bring this into the conversation of potentially 170 mile per hour sustained winds, so much stronger than what the National Hurricane Center and most of the other models are showing. But this is definitely a very high-end scenario, and it continues to strengthen here. At this point, it looks like we have what would be the absolute worst case scenario. You have a 913 millibar Category 5 hurricane, likely packing winds of up to 180 miles per hour with gusts well over 200 miles per hour just south of Jamaica. So it's already curving north, and it's nowhere near Category 4 status. Again, it's very, very catastrophic storm, and it just continues to deepen. Look at this. We're almost sub 910 millibars. This is a 910 millibar ferocious Category 5 hurricane, and it just goes right into Jamaica, making landfall as a 914 millibar catastrophic Category 5 hurricane. Direct impact right in line with what the National Hurricane Center is showing. Again, this is an incredibly slow-moving storm, produces catastrophic flooding and rainfall across the entire island here. Again, you can see just a perfectly symmetrical hurricane. If we zoom in on this, you can see literally a full circle there. Those isobars are tightly packed, perfectly placed. Again, this is just the best of the best. And I mean, I hate to say best because, again, this is a genuinely worst case scenario. We cannot see anything worse than this unless the storm somehow gets stronger. But it does go back in line with what the National Hurricane Center is showing. Although it does make landfall as a slightly stronger storm, 946 millibars. So there is agreement between the HAFSA and the HWRF that this may still be a Category 4 hurricane at the point of landfall in Cuba. So that's still some agreement that we need to watch out for. Again, both of the models are disagreeing with what the National Hurricane Center is saying, which means that they may have to bump up their forecast point as this makes landfall in Cuba. So it definitely looks like we could see a slightly stronger storm by then, and then it continues to move right and through the Bahamas still as a Category 2 hurricane, moves off to the north, and that's that. So again, catastrophic situation here. This run has the storm getting down to the 910 millibars, which is insane. But again, this would be just an absolutely deadly scenario. Again, I don't throw those words out lightly, and I'm putting them out for a reason. This would be this would cause total devastation. Again, you're talking about entire communities devastated, the entire island of Jamaica receiving catastrophic impacts. I mean, it's such a small island, but the fact that you have a storm of this magnitude impacting an island that small, it's just so hard to fathom what those people are going to have to go through. And again, that is some of the strongest wording that I've used all year for anything, for hurricanes, severe weather, winter weather. I don't know if I've ever used those kind of words this year, but I use them for a reason. You have to stay in place. If you haven't left yet, you have to stay in place, and you have to stay safe. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but you have to be prepared for this. This is going to be bad. It is going to be bad, and a lot of people on social media are still saying Jamaicans are used to this. Just because of how used to this you are, just because you went through this, does not change the impacts that the storm brings. A Category 4 hurricane is still a Category 4 hurricane. In this case, likely a Category 5, it's still going to bring the same impacts as the storm that you guys got, 40 years ago did. So it's still going to be the same magnitude, and it's still going to bring likely widespread devastation. And speaking of widespread devastation, this is why I say that. This is the 4-day rainfall forecast just exclusively for Hurricane Melissa by the Weather Prediction Center. You can see they still are holding that forecast, again, with up to 40 inches of rain being possible in far eastern Jamaica. So we're talking about potentially over 3 feet of rain in portions of eastern Jamaica, but across really all of eastern and central Jamaica, we're talking about likely around 2 feet of rain. So again, up to 40 inches is looking possible, but the forecast for Western Jamaica, again, is not nearly as bad as Eastern Jamaica. It still is going for anywhere from 6 to 12 inches, which again is still don't get me wrong, it's still a very significant amount, but that is not in line with the HWF is showing. So, am I buying that westward shift? Not really, but I do think that we may need to see these totals get bumped up a little bit farther west, just considering that also the HAFSA, now it's not as extreme farther to the west, but it does bring the landfall a little bit off towards the west from where the highest impact zone is here in terms of rainfall from the Weather Prediction Center. So, again, we are expecting isolated areas of 16 or more inches of rain here in southern Haiti, and then in the portions of eastern Cuba, they are also going for 16 to 20 inches of rain, which I believe is a new forecast point here. But for the Bahamas, it looks like, again, Crooked Island and Atkins, you guys could likely see up to a foot of rainfall from the system. But once again, I mean, we really need to worry about our folks in Jamaica and eastern Cuba, because this is as bad as it gets. And 3 feet of rain in a mountainous region, again, because you have that elevation, that is going to cause potentially areas to become inhabitable for weeks. Again, we're going to see total devastation. Entire communities could be washed out, again, due to how bad the flooding is going to be when all of that water runs down the mountain. You know where that collects and meets up? That is at the base of the mountains, and that's exactly where all of these towns and communities are located. So it's basically the same as Helene, but like 2 times worse. Again, this is 3 feet of rain falling on mountains, and all of that water collects and slides down into those communities. That's also going to bring rock slides, mudslides, and again, all just going to cause complete chaos and just catastrophic impacts. So this has always been the worst of the impacts expected by Melissa, and it still will be. Again, 3 feet of rain is just not going to do you any good. So this is certainly going to be a extremely catastrophic system. But I believe this will be the last part of the update. We look at the HAFSA wind speeds here. This is the 10-meter wind speeds. So these are sustained winds. And you can see as we get into that period where it is going for, again, the storm to reach Category 5 hurricane force, it does want max sustained winds of 140 knots, which I believe is over 160 miles per hour. Now, this may be underdoing it because some of the hurricane models, they'll show the correct model output for that low pressure center, but the winds actually get maxed out because the scale only goes up to 155. So I believe the winds would be stronger in this scenario. Again, usually when you have a 910 millibar low pressure system, that's when you're talking about likely sustained winds of up to 170 miles per hour, potentially even over. But this makes landfall, again, bring sustained winds of 150 plus miles per hour. In this scenario, it would bring wind gusts over 160 miles per hour. Again, you see the direct landfall on Jamaica, and eventually this moves into Cuba. Again, likely bring wind gusts or sustained winds of 130 plus miles per hour, with wind gusts getting over 160 miles per hour. And we see wind gusts of over 100 miles per hour, well over 100 miles per hour in the Bahamas as well. So again, just the recipe for absolute catastrophe. Again, really worried for what's going to happen here. I've never had I've had a gut feeling before that something really bad is going to happen, but I don't get it often. I only get it a couple times during the year, if any. This is definitely one of those times where I have a really, really bad feeling that something bad is going to happen. Again, this is a storm that is not going to be like any other to hit the island of Jamaica. This is likely going to be the strongest storm ever, again, to hit Jamaican soil. So we really, really need to make sure and just pray that everyone is going to be okay, and that everyone's going to realize the absolute danger of this storm and what kind of impacts it's going to bring. And we just got to pray that we can see the best possible scenario, and that the strengthening of Melissa will be as limited as possible. Again, it looks like this is going to be just as bad as we expect it to be as we get into Monday and eventually into Tuesday, where this thing will make landfall in southern Jamaica as a Category 4 to Category 5 hurricane. Alright, so that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so we can get this channel out to as many people as possible. Again, especially in one of these scenarios where it's going to be impacting so many people. But yeah, if you find yourself watching from those areas, please stay safe. My prayers are with you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.